Welcome to Week 12, Source Criticism with SIFT. SIFT, which stands for Stop, Investigate, Find, and Trace, helps us move from a simple first impression to a traceable, evidence-based judgment. Remember, true credibility is established by a reproducible source trail, not by a professional design or confident tone. Building on Lesson 11, where we identified checkable claims and ranked risk, this lesson focuses on the investigation itself. A strong, credible result doesn't just state a conclusion. It provides a clear, reproducible path from the initial claim to that conclusion. Ask yourself, can another person follow this same path? SIFT provides 4 distinct moves. Stop helps you identify the claim and how much verification it needs. Investigate identifies who is behind the source. Find searches for more relevant or responsible coverage. Finally, Trace locates the original context of the claim. Each step addresses a different source-critical question. It's important to remember that SIFT is flexible, not a rigid checklist. You might change the order, repeat a move when new evidence arises, or go directly to an official source. You can end your search when you have sufficient evidence for your needs. SIFT organizes investigation. It doesn't automatically produce truth. The first move is to stop. Resist the urge to immediately believe, reject, share, or act on new information. Take a moment to identify the exact claim, who it impacts, the potential consequences if it's wrong, and what evidence you would need to verify it. Stopping gives your judgment time to begin. Vague statements, like AI is destroying education, are difficult to investigate. To perform effective source criticism, turn these into bounded, checkable claims, such as, this article claims that students using generative AI complete less independent writing. A bounded claim gives you a specific target to investigate with evidence. When you have a claim, categorize it. Is it a fact, a statistic, a prediction, or an interpretation? Then, assess the stakes. Why does this claim matter, and who could be affected by it? Understanding these elements helps you decide the type and amount of evidence required to verify it. Strong emotions like anger, fear, or excitement are signals to slow down. Remember, an emotional reaction does not determine the truth of a claim. Instead, ask yourself why you want the claim to be true or false, whether you are being rushed, and what specific evidence would be enough to change your mind. Don't get trapped by asking if a source is simply good or bad. Instead, ask, is this source suitable for this particular claim? A source that is highly reliable for one topic might be completely inappropriate for another. Always ask yourself what that specific source can reasonably establish. When investigating, focus on features that affect the claim's suitability. Consider the creator, their purpose, their expertise, their funding, and their accountability standards. You don't need a deep, exhaustive biography of a publisher. You just need to gather enough information to determine if they are a reliable authority for your topic. Remember that an about page is just self-description. To really understand a source, use lateral reading. Leave the original page, open new tabs, and search for what other, independent, and responsible sources say about the publisher's track record, expertise, or potential conflicts of interest. Authority is contextual. A company might be the gold standard for its own technical specifications, but that doesn't make them an independent authority on why their product is the, quote, best. Similarly, a government document is authoritative on the law, but you might need independent reporting to understand how that law functions in real-world practice. When the original source is weak, look for better coverage. Better doesn't mean coverage that just confirms your pre-existing beliefs. Better means coverage that is more responsible, transparent, and suitable for the claim, providing the expertise or direct evidence you need to form a solid, well-informed judgment. For effective research, use strategic searching. Extract the core claim, leave the site, and add context like location, dates, or organization names to your search queries. Always try to identify who owns the information and compare sources to see if they are genuinely independent or just repeating the same original report. Finally, be careful not to mistake repetition for corroboration. If 4 different pages all lead back to one single, unsupported report, you don't have 4 independent confirmations. You just have one source being quoted 4 times. Always trace the claim back to its original origin to verify its validity. Now that we've explored the first steps of SIFT, let's move to tracing. Tracing is all about following a claim, whether it's a quote, a statistic, a study, or a story, back to its original source. By doing this, you can see how the information first appeared, what was actually said, and whether its meaning has shifted over time. SIFT isn't just about reading outside the page. While lateral orientation helps you understand the source, you must also return to the evidence. This close reading means looking carefully at the original document, data, or record to see what it actually supports. You need both the broader context and the specific evidence. Crucially, finding an original source doesn't mean you've found the truth. An original source might be built on weak methods, incomplete evidence, or even a simple honest mistake. Tracing tells you where a claim came from, but you still need to critically evaluate whether that evidence is actually reliable. Different types of sources have different inherent limits. Personal testimony can highlight a unique experience, but it can't tell you how common that experience is. Official records might list the rules, but they don't always show how those rules are practiced. Always match the source type to the specific claim you're evaluating. It is also vital to distinguish between different categories of information. Research presents findings via stated methods, while commentary offers an argument or interpretation. Advertising aims to persuade, and satire uses imitation for humor. Never confuse an argument, a promotion, or a parody with factual, neutral reporting. Avoid simply labeling a source as, quote, biased. Instead, focus on the evidence it provides. Ask yourself, what does this specific piece of evidence support? What are its limitations, and does it address the actual question? Credible analysis matches evidence to the claim, rather than just applying a label to the publisher. When you encounter research or data, use a simple method check. Identify who or what was studied, how the information was collected, and whether the results are being overstated. Be skeptical if a conclusion seems to leap far beyond what the results actually show. Always check for applicability. Correct information can still be misleading if applied in the wrong context. Look at the date, place, population, and jurisdiction. Does a law from one country really apply to your situation? Does old data fit today's circumstances? If it doesn't fit the context, the information lacks applicability. When dealing with AI output, treat it as a series of claims and leads, not as final evidence. Stop to extract the claim, investigate the named entities externally, find responsible third-party coverage, and trace the details to their original source. Remember, AI can organize your search, but it cannot verify its own accuracy. Images and videos also require careful tracing. Seek out earlier versions, check original dates and captions, and identify the first known publisher. Look closely for crops or edits that might distort the original scene. It's common for old media to be reused out of context to fit a new, unrelated narrative. To be truly source-critical, your process must be reproducible. Document your journey, the exact claim, your investigation notes, the sources you found, and why you believe they are reliable. Simply providing a list of links isn't enough. You must explain how those sources informed your final, evidence-based judgment. Finally, classify the claim based on the evidence. Is it fully supported, partly supported but exaggerated, unsupported, meaning you couldn't find enough evidence? Or is it clearly false? If the evidence is incomplete, it is okay to remain uncertain. Remember, unsupported does not automatically mean proven false. Your final action should match your findings. You might share the information, share it with necessary qualifications, correct the record, reject it, or escalate the inquiry to an expert. If you are uncertain, communicate that clearly. Honesty about what remains unknown is a hallmark of good source criticism. For our final activity, you will conduct a SIFT source audit. Choose a claim, trace it through the steps, and document your findings. Remember, do not attempt to act on high-stakes advice without verification. Use a manageable, lower-stakes claim to practice making the invisible process of verification visible. To wrap up, remember that credibility is a path that others can inspect and follow. It shouldn't be just a feeling created by a slick presentation. By making your investigative process visible, you demonstrate that your judgment is rooted in evidence, which is the ultimate goal of effective source criticism.